All right. Well, welcome to CCI. I'm filling in for Charlene as the vice chairman, and we would love introductions. Now, David, do you have a pattern of in order so that we don't miss anybody here?
And so what Charlene and I normally do is kind of go off of our screen. Do you want me to kind of call that out and start it, or do you want to do it?
You know, I could do it as well.
Okay, so we just normally start at the top.
Okay, I have Rose on mine first. Rose, do you want to say hi?
Hi, I haven't been able to attend Monday meetings because up until recently I had to help out at the front desk, but here I am. We got someone else in there. Was with the Custer County Coalition, but we've morphed into the Chalice Area Health Center Wellness Coalition. I'm past chair and I live in the lovely community of Chalice, Idaho.
Glad to see you again. All right, we have Wendy from ISPH.
Hi, my name is Wendy Young, and I'm with the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline. Thank you for inviting us to give you a short little update about what the hotline does and maybe how we can help you guys.
Wonderful. Amy?
I'm Amy Hurdle, and I work at Panhandle Health District, and I work with the Partnership for Success Grant and Substance Misuse Prevention. I have, just throughout my career been passionate about prevention, both, personally and here and professionally, and just excited to be here today.
Great. David?
Hi, my name is David Phillips, and I am the Executive Director for Community Coalitions of Idaho.
Great. Daphne?
Hi, I'm Daphne Lightfoot. I am the coordinator for the Canyon County Drug-Free Coalition over here. I guess we're Region 3, but yep.
All right. I guess I have Sylvia next. Are you
Sylvia Ryan? Yeah, I'm here. Sylvia Ryan, secretary for CCI, and filling in for Chloe today.
Okay, Kendall?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kendall Nagy, Meridian Anti-Drug Coalition and Meridian Police Department and CCI Legislative Committee.
Great. Shannon?
I am Shannon McKnight, and I work in McCall with the West Central Mountain Youth Advocacy Coalition.
Great. Mallory?
I'm Mallory Johnson. I do the drug overdose prevention program at Eastern Idaho Public Health.
Great. And I just have one that says, okay, Jim, are you there?
Yeah, I just popped on here. How is everybody?
Good. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Are you just doing introductions?
We are.
Okay. My name is Jim Hopla. I work at Brigham Young University, Idaho in Rexburg, and I'm the evaluator for CCIs.
Great. Okay, I have one that just says community coalitions, and I'm not sure if that's do any of you go by that handle?
I'm not sure.
Is Chloe here today?
Chloe is supposed to be on, they have a court hearing for their foster baby. So I don't know if maybe she's just kind of monitoring from her phone or what, but.
Okay.
This is Kelly, and I think I'm also logged in because sometimes my phone keeps me logged in when we use the CCI subscription.
Okay.
So yeah, this is Kelly from Clearwater Youth Alliance.
Hi, Kelly.
Great.
Hello.
And also Nancy joined us.
Yeah, hi guys. Sorry I'm late.
You're just perfect. All right.
Actually, we missed one person, David Roth. There's two Davids.
Oh, I'm sorry, David.
No worries. I'm David Roth. I'm the Executive Director of the Bonneville Youth Development Council in Southeast Idaho. I'm also CCI's treasurer, and happy to be here.
All right. Well, is there any, David, would you ever want to read our mission and our vision?
Yes, ma'am. CCI's mission is to support community coalitions efforts to prevent substance abuse in Idaho, and our vision is safe and healthy Idaho communities free of substance abuse.
All right, and David's going to take over on the consent agenda.
All right, folks. So Chloe and I sent out a couple of documents for your guys's review. Chloe sent out the minutes from last meeting that was attached to the agenda and the Zoom link, and I sent out the financial report. So unless anybody wants to has any questions or wants to pull anything from the consent agenda, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
This is David. I move to approve the consent agenda.
This is Rose. I second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second. All approve?
Yes, approve.
Aye.
Anybody, any nays? Cool, we can move on. Consent agenda is approved. So our next item on the agenda is Wendy, who's going to give us our mini training session from the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline. It's kind of funny is Chloe and I had a chance to meet with Wendy's boss, Lee, to set up this prevention thing. And then all of a sudden on the news, the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline was all over the news. And I kept telling my wife, hey, I know Lee, hey, I know Lee, hey, I know Lee. So it was really neat to kind of get a little bit of a perspective and background on what they do over there. And I'm going to pass it over to Wendy to explain to us what they do over there at the hotline.
Great. Hi, everyone. So thank you again for letting us give you this little presentation. I wanted to just point out, as David was saying, that the 10th is International Suicide Prevention and Awareness Day. So this has been a very busy week / month. So you hit it, like you're right in the middle of everything. You're right during the time where a lot of folks are talking about this. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And oh, can I share my screen? Okay.
You can now. I made you a co-host. Sorry.
Okay. All these different types of ones we can share. Let's see, from current slide. Okay. So that's me. I wanted to thank you all for the work that you do, because not only have I had suicidal experiences in my life, I also have a child who's now 18, but they struggled with drug use and have been down that road as well. So thank you for the work that you do. And I know it can be a tough road, just like working in suicide prevention. So thank you. Okay, so just a quick rundown of what we're going to talk about. So just a little bit about the hotline, just a little bit about recognizing signs. I'm going to assume most of you kind of understand what the signs of suicidal thoughts might be in the people that come to you, and then what to do if you do find that the people who are coming to you are suicidal, then how we can support you as you support other people in crisis. And then just a quick little update on the new changes, the 988 number that's going to happen early next year. So if you don't know anything about that, that's fine. We're going to touch on it. And then I want to leave just a little bit of time for questions and answers, because I know each one of your different communities can have slightly different questions regarding what's going on with suicide prevention and mental health in your areas. So first, what we do. The suicide hotline is actually more than just a hotline. We are crisis support. So we are Idaho's free and confidential accredited 24-hour crisis support. People can call us, they can text us. We even have a chat feature on our website. This is actually a picture of the phone room. We have an in-person phone room. We don't send people home with phones. They actually come into the phone room. They have a supervisor that's there who can listen to the calls while other people take them, and provide resources and prompt you if you kind of get stuck. I'm also a phone room responder. Not only do I deal with community partnerships, I have a Friday night 8 to midnight shift. So I'm in that room as well. So we do crisis intervention and suicide and homicide prevention. Now we don't talk a lot about being homicide prevention, but we do ask. Starting about a year and a half ago, we have been asking questions, the homicide question as well as the suicide question. So we will ask people, are you feeling suicidal? Are you feeling homicidal? We do have callers that have said they're feeling homicidal. When that happens, there's a whole cascading effect of how we get law enforcement involved. And it's much like suicide. We ask questions such as, do you have a plan? Do you have a means to carry out that plan? And then if the answers are yes, we get law enforcement involved. What's really great to know is that 80% of people who call us are able to be de-escalated. Their crisis is able to be de-escalated. So we scale people when they call as far as their situational crisis. And then we do not let people get off the phone unless they're able to tell us that they are going to stay safe. And you'll hear me use the word stay safe for now. We use that a lot because somebody might need to call us back in an hour or in a day or in a week. But if we can help you stay safe for now, we are not therapists. We can help you get to therapists. We can do referrals. We can do all of that. But we're just here to try to help you during an immediate crisis, help you think through it and help you stay safe for now. So 80% of those calls are able to be de-escalated and people are able to stay safe. And usually those calls end up where you're sometimes even laughing at the end of them. People are feeling much better and they know they can call us back. We've created a safety plan. 20% of those calls, people are not able to stay safe. So what this means is maybe they're just cannot de-escalate the situation. So in these cases, we help them find higher levels of care. So the first place we usually go to is crisis centers. Most of you, there's 7 crisis centers in the state. Most of you probably know about them. They're 24 hours. People can just walk in. It is not a place where you are on a hold. So you can walk in, get the care you need and walk out. If people don't, and that you have to be 18 to go to a crisis center. So if you don't want to go to a crisis center, you are under 18, then we have to try to get you to a different level of care. Usually this is the emergency room, but as David was saying earlier, as far as COVID numbers, this is getting a little bit touchy with folks on whether or not we can get them into a hospital, into an emergency room. So if those don't work, we can't keep you safe that way, then we do talk to law enforcement. So 12% of that 20 are welfare checks. But out of that 12%, 10% of those are welfare checks with the caller's knowledge. So we ask them if it's okay if we have somebody come and talk to them and check on them. This means that we can ask the caller, do you have a dog? Do you have a weapon? Can you unlock your front door? The person's going to be showing up. It's going to be an officer. They're going to have a uniform on, and we're able to talk them through that. 2% of our calls, and we're going to talk about our call volume. 2% of our calls are calls that people do not want a welfare check, but we do one anyways because they're actively suicidal. And they've called us and we're mandatory reporters. They call the Suicide Prevention Hotline. So they get a call. So we try to keep people safe for now. That's our goal. So when you call the hotline, we are going to listen to your story. We try to get people to talk it out. We often say we don't talk people out of suicide, we listen people out of suicide. So we get them to tell their story. We ask them lots of probing questions. They get lots of space to be quiet or to have an emotional reaction. Eventually, as they tell their story, most people give us the reasons they are calling the suicide prevention hotline. So they give us the reasons they want to live. And when they do that, we reflect those back to them. We ask the suicide and the homicide question to make sure that they can stay safe. Once we do that, they can stay safe and they've given us those reasons they want to live. We help them create a safety plan to keep them safe for tonight or that hour or that day, or until they can get to a counselor. So we're more than just a hotline. The suicide hotline is an entry point, meaning people call us that don't have access to other healthcare providers. They might not have a doctor. They might not have a counselor. No, they don't have a therapist. So they call the hotline. They can do it from their home, and we serve as that entry point. We're the ones then that try to help them get connected across the state with some other help, whether that's a therapist or a group or a doctor. We also provide follow-up support for people who are leaving hospitals or crisis centers. This is on a voluntary basis. We don't call people that don't want the hotline to reach out to them. We also provide crisis referral and support for healthcare providers. So we have a counselor in Twin Falls who probably has called us 16 times in the past month, where she sits with her clients and if they're having suicidal thoughts, she actually calls the hotline and acts like it's the first time she's ever called. And she will put us on speakerphone and she will say, "Hey, I'm sitting here with Bob. Bob was wondering about how the suicide hotline works. We're putting it in his phone. Can you just walk us through?" So we can do that for you as well. If you have somebody that you're working with that's dealing with suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, or you think that they might just be in crisis and they need somebody to talk to, then you can call us, put us on speakerphone with them sitting there. You can do the talking. They can listen to what it's like. You can put the number in their phone and then they've got it and you've walked them through that. We had our highest call volume in August that we have ever had. We had 1,670 calls in 1 month. That was an average of 54 calls per day. And some of those days were 70 call days and some of them were down to the 40s. One thing I wanted to put to you all, because you're from around the state, we've started tracking our call volume based on percent of population of counties. And it might be surprising for you to know the top 5 or 6 counties that have called us. The first by percent of population, the first is Gooding County. Number 2 was Custer. Number 3 was Latah. Number 4 was Canyon. Number 5 was Boise. And number 6 was Ada. So this was just our last, that was for our last our last period, which ended in August, the last quarter, which ended in August. So we're starting to track that, not based on the number of calls that we get, but by the percent of population. So hopefully we'll be able to provide that to you and to the community as they want it. Gives a better idea of the types of calls we're getting. So we have every county we've had calls from every county. Our youngest caller was 7. Our oldest was 92. There are people from all walks of life, rural, urban, men, women, veterans, LGBTQ community. Like there is no average caller. They're from all walks of life. People always ask us if we have higher call volume now, how the pandemic has affected the hotline. And it has made it a little more intense. As you know, being substance abuse folks, the pandemic made it so that the in-person meetings and relationships that people had with counselors became more difficult. And that happened, that was the same, that we saw the same thing. You know, we would have somebody who was struggling with maybe an abuse disorder and Zoom meetings were not working for them, or Zoom meetings for AA were not working. The isolation was big and hard. So all of that's true. However, there have always been people in crisis before the pandemic, and there will be people after the pandemic in crisis. So we don't want people to think that just because we're in the middle of this situation we're in, that it's something unusual. We were having calls way before we were in a pandemic. So the reasons people call the hotline, number one is suicidal ideation. Number two is self-reported mental health issues. Then you'll see it goes down: interpersonal conflicts, crime victim issues, self-reported addiction, physical health, and financial reasons. So those are the top reasons. So a lot of people ask us, what can we do to stop suicide? What can we do to prevent it? Why did this person choose suicide? Well, there is no reason. They're as unique as the person that's experiencing the crisis. So there is no single way, no single reason people think about suicide. And so there is no single solution to suicide. So just this morning, before I got on the call, I looked up some of the calls we had this morning. So these are all, we had 17 calls before 10 o'clock a.m. and just today. And these are all people that called. So an adult woman called because her 12-year-old son was feeling suicidal. On speakerphone, the responder helped the mother and the son talk about counseling, medications, and talking about the situation with the school. An adult man called because he had lost his job. He was suicidal. The responder helped him stay safe for tonight, and he agreed to call us back if he needed to talk. A 19-year-old woman called because she was self-harming for the first time in years due to a conflict with their partner. She was not suicidal. She had stopped doing therapy because she felt it was not working over Zoom. The responder was able to help her stay safe. Then we have familiar callers. These are people who have mental health issues usually, and they call us instead of calling 911. So he used to always call 911. He now calls us, and we're able to help him and relieve the first responders, like the police department, from responding to those calls. So suicide is a very serious problem when somebody tells you that they don't belong, they feel like they're a burden to others, they have a means to carry out lethal self-injury, and they cannot commit to staying safe to you. So if those things happen with the people you're working with, if those are the things that seem to be showing up, this is a serious situation and you need to contact somebody. You either can call the hotline, always with this person, or you can get them to a crisis center or a hospital. So what do you do if they say yes, that they're feeling suicidal? The first thing you can do is you can call the hotline. The second thing you can do is you can get them to a crisis center. Third, get them to an emergency room. Fourth, you yourself can do a welfare check on someone. And there'll be time at the end, I hope, for some questions if people have questions. I know I'm moving pretty quick through this. We can support you. So especially those of you who are in rural communities that have little or no access to counselors or healthcare providers, know that you can call us and we can help you, and we can help the folks that you're working with. Yeah, a person can call for themselves. They can also call for a loved one or somebody you're working with. We're going to ask, if you're calling for a loved one, we're going to ask if you're suicidal and homicidal, because people sometimes call for someone else, but they're actually calling for themselves. Big news in suicide prevention and mental health crisis intervention. So in 2020, the FCC agreed to create a new number, much like 911 was created. There is going to be a national mental health crisis number. So like 911, you're going to be able to dial 988 all across the country. What happens right now when you call the hotline using the 1-800 number is that you get routed to wherever your area code is on your phone. So if you just moved here from Nashville, Tennessee, you're going to get, and your phone still has the area code from Nashville, Tennessee, you're going to get the crisis center in Tennessee. So if you have a Idaho area code and you move to Alaska, you're still going to call Idaho. you're going to get us. 988 is going to be different. You're going to be able to geolocate, and so you will get the crisis center closest to you. These numbers are going to actually come, the 988 numbers will come through the 1-800 Lifeline suicide prevention number. So the hotline, the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline, will get these calls because we already get these calls. You know, we get the 1-800 Lifeline calls, so we will get the 988 numbers. They'll be routed to us. So right now, the hotline is trying to scale to reach 988. We are deep into more training to try to expand what we deal with as far as mental health issues and resources. So all the help you can provide us about what you provide in your locations, we would love it. When somebody calls from, I think I heard somebody was from McCall, you know, what options do they have if they're in McCall? What options do they have if they're in Adams County? You know, if you know those things, please let us know. Low estimate, we think that our calls will increase from 16,000, or we had to 26,000 by next year, by the time the calls start. Could be as high as 51,000. We're not sure. These are calls, texts, and chats. So we're really excited. We're really excited that this is happening. We want it to happen. We have been asking for it to happen. We didn't think it would happen this quick. And this is an unfunded mandate from the federal government. So this is going live all across the country, but there's no money associated with it. So we've got to scale up to try to meet this need and become the experts on this with no extra funding so far. So as the life of a nonprofit. So that's where I'm going to stop. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And I hope I left just a couple of minutes. I know I went through that super fast, but I hope that there's a couple of minutes for conversation if you have it.
Does anybody have any questions for Wendy?
I just had a quick question. I know you broke it down by county, which was really great. Most of us here, probably all of us, deal a lot with a youth audience, and I know you said it was kind of across the board, but do you have any numbers or maybe percentage of your calls that are maybe those under 18?
Yeah, we do. I can send that to you. So I can send anybody who wants. Maybe I can send David. I think I have your email
Yeah, you
address.
can send it to me and I'll
Okay.
share it with, we'll share it with the minutes.
Okay. So I'll send out our last quarter's report so you can get an idea. It's very average as far as how each quarter goes. So you'll get an idea of how many people call us, how many youth call us. It's pretty high. It's pretty high. And they text a lot. They're almost 100% of our texters.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. I know Chloe and I learned a lot about the hotline just through speaking with Lee, and you guys have been in the news. Like I said, it's been amazing, and really hope you guys find some way to fund that unfunded mandate. We love those so much.
Right, don't we? Okay, thank you so much. I'll jump off. I'm serious about reaching out to us. If you have of resources that we can tell our callers, please, let the information go both ways. Share with us anything you have.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a good day.
All right, next up on our agenda is Sharon, and she gets to tell us all the really cool stuff that the Salmon Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition is doing. And I actually am pretty excited about this because I had a chance to spend some time in Salmon and visit the Youth Coalition and Sharon's Adult Coalition. It was really neat to see what they're doing out there. So take it away, Sharon.
All right, now David, you might have to help me because I've never done the screen sharing. So I take it, I'm going to try this and you tell me if it doesn't come through, okay?
Yeah, so you click screen share and it should bring up your whatever PowerPoint or whatever you're sharing. You click on that.
All right, can you see anything at this point?
No, not yet.
Okay, do I need to open system preferences?
I don't think so. You should share screen, and then it should bring up what you want to share. You should see it there. And then you click that, and then you click share on the lower right-hand corner.
It's just saying allow Zoom to share on your screen. It says open system preferences.
Do you want to send it to me and I can share it?
I think it would take probably too long to get to you.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what else to. Here we go. Let me try this.
Okay. So something that I did learn while I was in Salmon and Chalice was they don't have the they don't have internet like we have out here in Ada County, and I noticed the internet was pretty good in Idaho Falls area. So that is a struggle for some of our rural communities. I've come to find is the more rural you are, the less likely you are to have super great internet access.
Okay, well, we're going to just have to, I feel bad you're going to miss the PowerPoint, but I'm going to just have to go and visit with you about this, I guess.
You can send it to us and we will we'll include it in the minutes if you want, if you don't mind.
That's good. All right, sorry you can't see that. The Salmon Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition has been around since 2014. We brought together a lot of different entities that were doing similar things. And because of the SPF grant, we created one community coalition. As we were doing our assessments to decide what our coalition would look like, the things that came up real high for salmon was a strong drinking culture, high meth production, and favorable attitudes of parents and community.
I can hear, but I can't see anything, but I guess there's nothing to see.
Okay, can you see, how about, you can just see me, I guess. Anyway, favorable attitudes were another issue. Our ranch industry, what kind of comes with our ranch industry is a cowboy culture of, we don't want anyone telling us what to do, coming and telling us what to do from the outside. And also the tourist industry that we have kind of brings in that pot is harmless or it's medicine. So those were some of the things that we really tried to work our strategies around to begin with. We have, I'm sure we're similar to a lot of the coalitions in Idaho. We have drug take back days, we do this. And I thought, what could we talk about today that maybe everyone might not do, that you might be interested in? And one thing that we do is we really use our youth a lot. We bring them into the planning, not just, they have their own coalition, but they're also part of our adult coalition. And in our last school survey, we had 27% of students that felt like they did not belong in the school. 22% had suicide ideation, and over 25% had been bullied. And as we did a little research from the CDC, they said that this risk factor of non-connection was not just a risk factor for drug use, but also for suicide. And because of that, a lot of our programs are focused around getting kids connected with other kids and making them feel like they have a place to be. One of the things that we just finished with is we have peer-to-peer mentoring. So that is, last fall, we brought in the teachers, we brought in students could apply. We came up with a panel of kids that would reach every group in the school. And we asked these leaders to train. They trained last spring, they trained this fall again. And on the first day of school, we had a great celebration for the first grade. They let us take over freshman orientation. And the kids did, they did games, they did things, but they all had object lessons to them. And we did tours of the school. We just really celebrated them being there. And we introduced them to mentors that they would be with all year. So if they ever felt like they didn't belong, but have someone to go to, if they had questions of where something is, they would have someone to talk to. And we felt like this was really one of the best ways to create connection in the school. The other thing is we start out with Link Crew, but about a month into our program, we go completely sources of strength. It's a suicide prevention. We feel like the two work really well. One really welcomes that freshman class in, gives them a place to connect with, and then they're able to go on to that suicide prevention sources of strength program throughout the rest of the year. So anyway, I had some very fun pictures to show you. If you you can quickly look through them if they get sent out with the minutes. The other thing our youth does, they just had a big strategic planning meeting, so they were able to really look at those numbers in the school too, and talk to the youth about what their idea was about what to do about it. And they made plans, and it's great to see them growing by leaps and bounds. They do all kinds of alternative activities. They're in the parade. They do prevention things. We've done every 15 minutes, the mannequin challenge, just depending on the year. A couple of staples for us that we do every year is we do an awards evening where we recognize outstanding prevention people, but it's also a talent evening for the school. Salmon's Got Talent. That's one of our main things. Great turnout. It's good enough that we want to do it every year. The film festival, the kids do every year. Those schools are able to, all of the winners are able to put their winning entries in Salmon's Got Talent. The other thing we do in the winter is we have a jubilation. We have a walk against drunk driving, and then everyone dresses up like Dr. Seuss, but we talk to the kids and they have a big activity for the community. Those are staples. The other things that they do in the year is they did, for instance, some of the things that I've shared with the coalition before. They had the 200 and some pair of shoes for the people that died of overdoses, just a real visual for the community. Anyway, those are just a couple of programs that might be different than what some of you might do, that you might think about. Some of our main partners are law enforcement. Of course, they help us. We have a party patrol. They help us with drug take back days. Main partners with school. That's probably our biggest partner. Hospital, businesses. But some of the things that we have going on in the near future is probably very similar to what you did. Last year we had, for Recovery Month, we had a speaker and we had a film that the kids did. And we felt like we weren't really reaching the recovery community. We had other people come out, but not very many from recovery community. So we're going to take the celebration to them a little bit this year. To Alcoholics Anonymous, we're going to take a celebration cake. For our drug court, we'll be doing similar things for our counselors. And we're also going to do a series on the radio during the month, sharing prevention stories of success. And also the youth did a poetry contest about substance abuse. Those winning entries will also go in this radio show. So it's just a little different angle. We're hoping to reach more of the community that we want to reach with maybe this new approach this year. We have, of course, our Suicide Prevention Month this month, family dinner night. I'm sure those are things that all of the other coalitions are doing. We are also having David Gomez come in at the end of the month. He's going to talk about internet safety, a little bit about what he'll have an assembly for students, an assembly for parents, and then also for community leaders. And we're really excited for him to talk to the parents. From going to his presentation, there's so much I didn't know that is going on that these kids are totally aware of and we're not. So we're excited to have David. Those are the main things that we're doing right now. And I guess that's it, David.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Sharon?
We are just kind of a unique community because we're really spread out. Our county goes 60 miles in every direction. So it's a huge geographic area. We have a little school in Leadore. We have a little school in Persimmon and a lot of charter schools, but it's mostly, the hub is this main Salmon School District.
Yeah, and it was pretty neat getting a chance to sit in on the kids' meetings during lunchtime at the high school. The kids are very plugged into the work of prevention, and Amber's doing an amazing job leading those kids. And it was really neat to see the kids be a part of the adult coalition. That's something that's always been on my heart as long as I've been in prevention, is to include our kids in the conversation and the decisions, because really they're the ones that we're making the decisions for. So
Yeah, did
sorry.
anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, just turn it over to David to go on to the next section. With, of course, we have our board chair that's been vacated, that position. In our bylaws, it says the vice president performs the duties of the chair in the chair's absence or inability to perform the duties of the chair. In organizations that I've been in before, that usually means that the vice president finishes the term up. But if this group feels like they'd rather have an election now, I am totally fine with that. To me, that was the interpretation of it, but I'm good with anything this group decides. So David, you can take that away from there.
So yeah, so like Sharon said, Charlene did vacate. And if anybody doesn't know, I apologize. It's been kind of a crazy August and getting back into the swing of things for September. But Sharon did resign as the chair as of effective September 1st. And the bylaws, there's a lot of open to interpretation. Sharon is willing and able to complete the term as chair. So no matter what the decision is of the membership, we do need to find bare minimum a new vice chair. And I'd like to make everyone aware for next year that Sylvia, this will be Sylvia's last year as our secretary. So there's going to be, we're going to need a vice chair now if Sharon does step up. And then, next year there will be chair and secretary positions, bare minimum, open for next year. So does anybody have any input one way or another? Should we accept Sharon as the chair, or does anybody have any input on whether we should have an election? The floor is open. You guys can unmute yourselves.
I'm good with Sharon keeping the chair if she is good serving the rest of the term out.
When does the term end? Just out of curiosity.
So I think it's June of 2022. So we would be having these elections. We would bring them up at the May meeting, and then we would have the election at the June meeting. If there's an election, most of the time, in my time here in the last year and a half, we haven't had an election. It's just been someone's interested and they're the only ones, so they get picked. A lot similar to when you picked up as treasurer, David.
Yeah.
So if I don't hear anything from you guys, I'm going to assume that we don't want to go through the process of having an election now, and we'll wait until next summer to deal with the chair and secretary positions. Is that what I'm hearing from everybody? There's no wrong answer here.
This is Kelly. I just have a quick question. I think that Sharon will make an amazing chair, but my question is, if she finishes out this term, does that make her ineligible to take the term? I kind of missed part of that there. So would she still be able to be the chair again when the actual new cycle starts?
Yes, our bylaws are a little fuzzy, and Sharon and I and Chloe and Charlene have been working towards getting those more ironed out, but she would be able to, because there's nothing in our bylaws that says you can't resume. I think you can do 2 additional terms. So she would just be completing Charlene's term. This wouldn't be considered a full term for her. So as we get into the bylaws more, we're going to present those to you guys to make sure that everything's copacetic with the membership. But there's nothing in the bylaws that says she can't continue to run for more terms if she so wishes. So
Then I definitely think that Sharon would be a great fit for that role.
okay.
This is Sylvia. I just want to add too that I think for consistency for the coalition, to just keep things running smoothly, having Sharon stay in this position would be, in my opinion, a good idea. And that way, you know, it gives others opportunities to really think about if this is something they're interested in down the road.
Okay.
So in a lot of organizations, I know we talked about that, you know, you either finish out the term or hold elections. There are some people on this call that didn't even know this was happening, maybe want to take some time to think about it. Do you think that it would, do you think that it would be fair to kind of do like we've done or like we did with, say, the treasurer position and make the announcement today that we're seeking, and then hold an election, so to speak, at the next term? And if no one raises their hand and says between now and then that they're interested, then it'll be uncontested and it'll be fast. But I think it's appropriate to give notice at a meeting that we need to fill this position, just to follow the rules.
What are your thoughts, Sharon?
I think that usually when that statement is in a it usually means that person will fill that position. So if it, you know what, maybe we need to vote on what that interpretation is. If we need an election, we definitely should do it not today, at another time. And if we need an election for a vice chairman, then we should open that up and then have that election another day.
The one thing I will say is this position is different than any other board position, because in a few days, I'm going to be asking the chair to approve payroll. And we have a very young program coordinator who we all remember being in our early 20s and living paycheck to paycheck. So I need payroll done in a timely fashion. So I think that I think
Sharon can continue to carry on the role until such time as it's finalized. I don't think there's any question about that. The bylaws are pretty clear. My question is just, do we need to, you know, a lot of times in Robert's Rules of Order, there's process that seems extenuous, but it is the process. And I'm just curious if we need to actually take the steps. I mean, we are a nonprofit, we are government funded. Is it better to take the steps appropriately? That's my only concern. I don't know that anyone would even run against Sharon, but I just think it's proper to dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
You want to put it up for a vote, Sharon, and see how the membership?
You know, yes, we can vote on that. If that's your interpretation that we need an election, then we definitely shouldn't do it today.
Oh no, we shouldn't. But you should be.
But if we're up for, if this group interprets that also that I should finish out the term, then I don't think we need election for me, but we should have an election for the vice chairman at the next meeting. So does somebody want to make a motion one way or the other?
That's what we're looking for now.
I would move that we schedule an election for the chair for the next meeting.
Okay, that means this is coming up for an election.
Yes.
So everybody has.
That's what Robert's Rules of Order say should happen, that you should be chair until such time as that election can be held. And our bylaws, I'm pretty sure, state we follow Robert's rules. So I would say that's the proper way to do it.
And I guess I've been in organizations where that's not how it's interpreted, David, but this group gets to decide that.
Oh, so I just made the motion. So
there's a motion on the table to have an election for the chair at the next monthly meeting. Do I have a second?
Then it will die.
Okay, with no second, then that motion dies. Did you have something to add, Darren?
I'll make a motion to have Sharon continue as chair to fill out the term, and then maybe have a, or not maybe, but then have an election for the vice chair at the next meeting.
This is Kendall. I second that.
All right, now this is, I need everyone's microphones off for this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
I,
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Sharon, you are our new chair. Sorry, that was a little rougher, but at least everybody had their chance to give.
That's
input.
fine.
And Kendall, you seconded that motion for Darren, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just helping Sylvia make sure we.
David, could you just read back that motion for me one more time?
So Darren's motion was that Sharon would fulfill the remainder of the term for the chair and would be our chair. Darren made the motion, Kendall seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, congratulations, Sharon. So the other thing on the agenda for discussion is in July, middle of July, Eric completely stopped communicating, stopped returning emails, phone calls. I even reached out to Debbie Dawkins, who was the one who knows him very well, and she couldn't even get a response from him. So I do not know what's going on in his life, but we need a new graphics contractor. I have hired for the last two graphics that we've needed before the end of this fiscal year, someone that I've worked with in the past to get the fall prevention flyer done and the flyer done for the work that we're doing, the workshop that we're doing with Project Filter. But I need to know what is the process on hiring a new graphics person for the next fiscal year that starts October 1st?
Well, we should come up with we have his job description, so we should put that job opportunity forward for anyone in the state.
Okay.
On job service. Anybody else?
Does anybody work with any graphics people that they could, if you do, please send their information my way. I want to make sure that we get a good person, but I want someone who's going to finish out the contract. So
David Yak works with Chris Joyle. She's out of New Meadows, but she is amazing. Shannon, you could speak to that too. She's very responsive, quality work. Just a pleasure to work with.
Okay, Shannon, if you could send me her information, I would appreciate that. And anybody else, if you have anybody that you've worked with recently that does graphics work, especially if they've worked in the field of prevention or recovery, anything that's helpful because they understand what we're looking for. So
I know Neighborhood All Stars has done a lot of our graphics and does for the Office of Drug Policy, but I don't know if they do little things all the time or if it's just larger things, but it'd be worth a call.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have their contacts that you can send me, or should I reach out and look for it?
I have either one. I have their contacts.
It's always easier if you could send it to me because things slide out of my ears and onto the table all the time.
David, what do you currently, what was Eric charging?
We were paying $75 an hour.
Okay. I think Chris Joyle is like $60. That's her nonprofit rate, I believe.
Well, I don't need it to be cheaper. I just spend. If she can match at 75, I'm totally happy with that because in the 2 years that the year and a half that I've worked here, it's almost 2 years. We've yet to spend our allotment on the grant for this position. So not a money problem, it's a personnel problem. Okay, I think I'm going to skip I'm going to flip things because we're losing people. We need to talk about the Fall Prevention Conference. We had originally slated to hold it in North Idaho. We had secured hotel space at the University in Moscow, really close to the Pullman Airport if anyone was flying. And then COVID has done what it has done lately, and North Idaho is already in crisis standards of care. South, down here in Ada County in southwestern Idaho, we're not too far behind them. I think because we have more hospitals that we have not entered into crisis standards of care yet, but COVID numbers are insane. I don't know what it's like in East Idaho, but a lot of people when Chloe sent out the agenda and information about the conference before we were talking about switching it to virtual, had said that they could not travel because of COVID. My doctor still hasn't cleared me to travel since my COVID diagnosis, and other people were just more comfortable with possibly doing it virtual this year. We're ready to go both ways. But I don't think we can have it in North Idaho, so we would probably have to switch it to somewhere else last minute, and I don't know how much work that would be. So can I get some input from those of you who are still here on your feelings about virtual versus in person and locations and stuff?
I'm totally fine with virtual.
I'm good with virtual as well. Like I mentioned in the email, I'm probably not gonna be able to make it if we don't do it virtual, just because we start our youth and family series on that Tuesday evening. So I have to be here in McCall.
Kendall, you have any input? I know you're working from home today.
Yeah, I just say virtual only, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to make it anyway, but I think that would help with attendance.
Darren, do you have any input?
My personal preference is always in person, but I think logistically and with common sense with the cases, it just really does make sense at this time to go virtual.
Okay, Kelly, do you have any input? I know you're.
I agree. I don't like online trainings, and I stopped doing a lot of them just because I feel like I don't get nearly as much out of them. But like up here right now, I mean, COVID is just crazy. Our school is shut down again. And I just think, yeah, it's better to do it online.
Do you have any input, Sharon?
Yeah, if that's the consensus of the group, I'm great with online as well.
I wanted to share with you guys real quick what the 2 days it will look like. This is going to be probably, I hate virtual myself. I'm a big in-person person, and I've loved the last couple conferences that we've been able to put together in person. We do have I feel like we've done a really good job of giving you guys a lot for your time. We're gonna have Ray Lozano zooming in, and he's gonna do 3 trainings for us. One of them is the high price of marijuana in the youth brain. He gave us a really detailed description of what each of his trainings are gonna be. We're gonna have our CCI monthly meeting during this time, and then Ray's gonna come back and do vaping in teens. And then we're gonna end the day. I'm missing one training, so I'm thinking we could possibly do a beg, borrow, and steal like we've been trying to do for a while, or I could try to secure another trainer, but I don't have anybody for this last spot on this last day. So we could either end early, or we could do the beg, borrow, and steal, or I could find another trainer. And then on day 2, we have Michelle Frey from the Northwest Prevention Technology Transfer Center doing something around public policy and prevention. What does comprehensive prevention planning look like? Prevention programs, practices, policies, creating the synergetic effects for greater outcomes. North Point Recovery is doing motivational intervention training for us. Colleen Weinhoff, thank you, Kendall, for plugging me in with her. She's going to give us a training on what statistics look like in drug testing on the national level and also from Idaho perspective, because she does do, her office is located here in Idaho, so she does a lot of work that. And then Ray Lozano is going to come back and do addiction in teens, and I'll send you guys out the descriptions that he sent me with each of these trainings. And then he's going to wrap up the day, and then we're going to have conference wrap up and post-conference survey. So this is what our virtual conference is going to look like. It has breaks in there, opportunities for you to grab and eat lunch, and then our CCI monthly meeting will be inside there. So everybody that, like me, that doesn't like these online meetings, I don't either, but I'm trying to provide the things that I always irritate me about other online conferences. I'm trying to give you guys as much bang for your buck and for your time. So I think we're in a consensus that continuing with this virtual component is necessary because of what we're going through with COVID. Okay, next, we had the right before I got COVID, I think I got COVID from this group, but the Behavioral Health Planning Council called me to their executive meeting, and they asked me if I would act as the chair for the prevention portion of Behavioral Health Planning Council. So I accept that. So CCI will be running and planning the prevention side of things for the Behavioral Health Planning Council. We held a grant writing workshop series. It got kind of muddled in the middle because a lot of people had emergencies and schedules, me being one of those. I was hospitalized in the middle of this grant writing workshop with Debbie Evans. Chloe did an amazing job of putting together all the technology side of things. And it ended up not turning out the way we had planned, but it actually turned out really well. David Roth, you were in that. What did you think about that workshop? Is he there?
Get unmuted. I thought the workshop was great. I actually have used some of the resources that came from it to work on the grant we're working on right now.
So that's a good thing. And then we also, Debbie Evans was talking to Marianne over at ODP, and Marianne is, because we are planning on doing this again because a lot of people's schedules did not let them take this workshop. So Marianne from ODP is considering partnering up with us on this to help get people ready for the block grant opportunities. So that was really good. So it's neat that we're starting to work with our regional partners. I will actually be meeting with Katie Wiseman from the Idaho Liquor Division and talking to her about the liquor grant that's out there right now. So that those mini grants, so that we can help you guys be successful in getting those grants. So, and then we did complete the DFC progress report in the CCT. We got delayed because of, once again, my COVID in the hospital. We had not planned for me to get sick. So it kind of threw a wrench in things. And then we were ready to be completed by the end of the month, by the 31st. But then when the website went down, that threw a wrench in our plans. But we were completed a few days later, I think 9th or 10th. We got completed. We got our email saying that we were fully submitted and they were reviewing it, and we haven't heard anything back yet. So does anybody have any questions on any of that?
David, this is Kendall. Can you just verify the Behavioral Health Planning Council and what that is so that I'm making sure I'm understanding that correctly?
So the Behavioral Health Planning Council, they oversee distribution of the block grant funds, and they are the volunteer organization that makes sure that all of that everybody's getting served properly, that nobody's getting underserved. They really focus on underserved populations, and then they also formulate a report for the federal government and the governor on what work has been done through the block grant funding.
So do they go through and make those assessments, and then does that trickle down to the different regions throughout Idaho, like the Regional Behavioral Health Board?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Some of the regional behavioral health board members are like Jim, I'm forgetting his last name. He's on the Behavioral Health Planning Council, and he's region 1 or 2 chair for the behavioral health planning. So a lot of those board members are a part of this committee. We fulfill the nonprofit prevention side of things, so non-governmental prevention work.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
And David, this may be a little back off topic, but when you have that the CCI meeting in October, is that something we could invite partners in our regions to join for that as well?
Please do. Yes, the more the merrier, and we want to make sure that as many people that are interested in prevention or any of these workshops that they are able to attend. This is free of charge. This is funding from our DFC, so the more the merrier.
Okay, and that's great. And I apologize if I've not seen it. Did you send out? Oh, I guess we just decided there's not been like a link or registration or anything sent at this point.
We did send something out, but we have since changed it. So with the minutes of this meeting, it'll get sent out, and then I'll make sure it gets sent out to you individually to Amy, so that you can make sure people get registered. We're hoping to have everybody registered by the last week of September, so that we know who's coming and who's not.
Okay, that sounds great. And that's great for Region 1 to be able to hopefully have some more people there.
Yeah, we'd love to have some more people from Region 1, because that's a region that we desperately need more help with. So thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports. So the Workforce and Development Committee, that is just Rebecca now. Sharon, is that correct?
Well, Charlene will stay on that for a few months at least, but she isn't here, of course, today.
Yeah. Rebecca did send me an email saying that she would not be able to attend today. The next, I looked up while Sharon was giving her presentation, the next coalition that says confirmed, I'm going to double check, but the next coalition that has the program spotlight is the Lapaway Community Coalition. I'm going to verify with Kiri and make sure that they're ready for that. And then the mini workshop is the Idaho Nonprofit Center. They actually were slated for last month and things got confused, but so they'll be on our virtual meeting during our conference next month. So those are the 2 that are coming up. They Charlene and Rebecca have been amazing, and lobbying softball, great opportunities for us to set up all these trainings with. We did have Greg Summers slated for our monthly webinar in November. He let us know that he has a conflict now, so we're going to have to switch that up. We'll be working with Sharon and Charlene on that, and I think that's it for the Workforce Development Committee. Just a reminder of the links that you can use to update your region, and then also send any information to Sharon and Charlene on any kind of workshops that you guys want. Sharon, do you have anything for your internal organization subcommittee?
Yeah, just that we're really working things over. We're hoping we can have it to a place that we can send it out before our training so that people can actually, if we have our meeting at that time, we'll be able to discuss it and possibly approve some of it, the changes.
To the bylaws.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? All right, legislative committee. Kendall, do you have anything?
No, not in particular, other than, oh, I moved my camera, home camera. The thank yous were sent out to the elected officials that we determined, I think it was anywhere between 12 and 15. And I sent that out in paper in the snail mail. And then I also sent that out via email so that the links were easily accessible to the resources that we included in that letter. I did hear back from a few of our elected officials. I just spaced on the names. So that's good, so that they have received those and we are continuing that communication in between the sessions. So.
And we also have coming up in January, we have our screening of smoke screen that we'll be doing at the Capitol building on the 19th of January we have the room from 9 to noon. So we're going to have a panel of speakers that is going to be able to answer the legislative members' questions after the screening of smoke screen. So that's another thing up on the distant horizon that we'll be doing.
David, do we have a confirmed panel for that event yet?
No, I think we need to set up a meeting and make sure that we go over who we are looking for and what we're looking to fill. I have some people who have expressed interest, but so COVID's calmed down by then.
Yeah, and just as far as with, people that have that subject matter expertise and they're sought after, the sooner we can reach out with a date to secure that, the better for them.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, networking and membership communication subcommittee. Daphne, are you still on here? Don't think she's here anymore. Okay, so do we have any PFS coordinators on still?
I'm here.
Hi, Amy. You want to kick us off since you're in Region 1 anyway?
And I apologize. I'll turn my camera on. You'd think I'd know how to do that quicker. Just a few updates as far as our PFS in Region 1. We have completed 4 mental health first aid trainings, and it was a little over 6 weeks within rural counties. So actually all 4 of those were in Benoit County. And they have been very popular here, and we were able to hold those in person. Things are shifting here now, but they were really well received. And we had planned to do 4 in the year. And so it was I was surprised that we did those so quickly, and there was a need there. And another thing that has been quite popular here is with medication disposal and storage has been medication lock boxes, as well as the disposal pouches. And even through COVID, I've been having requests for those, and actually back ordered on medication lock boxes. Difficult in getting those, but those have been really popular and things that have been going on here the last month, along with working with a lot of other partners on some upcoming events. And today I was just looking at how do we change things? How do we, we've done this before, going from in-person, moving to more virtual. And so working on that with some things up here. So that is a quick update here from Region 1.
Awesome, thank you. I'm looking, I don't see any more PFS coordinators. Anybody, am I mistaken? I did get a email from Rebecca. She did have an update. They have 3 mini grants that they're giving out to the area of Region 4. I'm not sure if you got the email, Kendall, but one is curriculum, the other one's environmental, and I forgot the other ones. There's 3 different categories that you could apply for mini grants. I think the total amount that they're giving away is $7,500. So We will attach those applications and information to the minutes, and we will send those out so that you guys can look those over. If you're in Region 4 or you happen to know someone who's in Region 4, I think Sylvia, Sharon, you guys are in Region 4, right? Shannon?
Yeah, and I
Yes.
think that the third one was reimbursement for prevention education training.
There you go. Thanks. So, but we'll be attaching that to the minutes so that you guys can have those. All right, we're to region representatives. So we don't have Region 1. Region 2 is Charlene. Region 3 is Jerry. She's not here. Sylvia, do you want to give us an update for what you guys have been doing?
I'll let Shannon do that.
Okay.
Helped with one of the local elementary schools. We have two. We helped with their back to school night a few weeks ago by providing watermelons. And then Sylvia and the Head Start coordinator set up a table to give out information to all the parents. We've done 3 farmers markets and have a 4th one coming up at the end of this month. And we also did a luncheon down in New Meadows, which I invited Tara Woodward to. She was on our last CCI call and she came down and told New Meadows all that she does. And she actually has some grants that she's trying to get them to apply for, but I'm still having a little bit of trouble getting them a little group up and running down there for our Planet Youth. This week we have open house, so people can come and see our office. I guess I'll put my camera on. And our office, we're combined with the Rock. So we'll do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here at the office, and then Saturday we'll end our week with a recovery rally in downtown McCall from 2 to 7 o'clock. And we have, I think, 6 or 7 vendors coming to that. And our theme is recovery is prevention for the next generation. And then, like I said, we've been working on our 3rd annual Youth and Family series, which is every Tuesday in October from 6 to 8 p.m. And we are hosting that live and then recording it and adding it to our YouTube page because there's not good Wi-Fi at the place. So probably won't be able to stream it there. I think that's about it.
Cool. So it looks like MADC has their recovery breakfast coming up. Is that only in person, Kendall, or is that in person and virtual?
It's both at this point. We request that you register, and then when you do register, it'll send out a link. So it's our backup plan so that if for some reason it's not in person, you've got the virtual link as well.
And this is this link that you shared with us, that's the link they use?
To register, correct. It's also included on the flyer that I sent.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Sharon, you're up next.
I really covered what we're doing in my highlight, but thank you.
You're welcome. So something that CCI has been working with Tara in Region 3 is she's looking at building a county-wide coalition there in Region 3. And so we've been using some of our connections to help her try to get that off the ground. We connected her with the sergeant from Idaho State Police, who is our law enforcement sector. And he reached out to a few of his colleagues out there in the different counties in Region 3, and he's helping us secure a law enforcement person that will be a part of that coalition. So we're looking to build on some capacity. We're hoping to build capacity, and then we're still working with our partners out in the Twin Falls area about hopefully starting something with our youth and building into a larger actual coalition out there in, I believe that's Region 5. So we're trying to fill in some of those regions that do not have any coalition work. Some of you in 7 and 2 have a ton of coalition work, and it's amazing to see everything you guys are doing out there. But trying to bring some of that energy and power into regions that don't have any or very little coalition work inside of them. So we did region representatives. New funding opportunities. The Office of Drug Policy has their COVID Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Grant. I believe that's $1 million in total that they're looking to fund. We did share out that opportunity, but we will include that with the minutes as well. The applications are due by the end of September by 9:30. It was released on 8/27. So, and if you have any questions, if you have any problems, like you might need a partner to successfully get your application approved, or if you feel like a partner is necessary, CCI is always here to partner with you guys on opportunities that'll help with prevention in your given areas. And then I also spoke about the Idaho State Liquor Division mini grants. That is also, open right now, and we'll be sending out information. Then I will be recording a podcast with Katie tomorrow, and I will share that with you guys so you guys can hopefully get some ins and outs on how to be successful with the liquor grants. And then training opportunities. I spoke about the grant writing workshop. It will be held again. So if you are interested in that, please let us know so that we can capture your information and send you out those links and signups when we figure out. Probably going to be the first of the year is what we're looking at, but more information on that later. And then we do have our monthly webinar on the 22nd of this month from 11 to 12:30 with Project Filter. So that flyer and links for that will be sent out with the minutes as well. So we are 5 minutes before adjournment. Sharon, did you have anything else?
I don't. I'm looking forward to this upcoming training. It sounds like there's some great things on the agenda, and I wish would be able to see you all in person, but we'll put up with virtual while we have to.
Yeah, we will be back together, and it was really neat being able to see everybody in the spring. I'm glad we got a chance to come together in the spring, since we're not being able to come together this fall. But to everyone, be safe and try to do your best to protect your immune system, because it's like gold. So you want to call for adjournment, Sharon?
Yes. Well, do we have to have a motion for that, or do I just announce that we're adjourned until October 4th for our training?
I think it asked for a motion in a second.
Okay. Anybody like to entertain a motion for adjournment?
This is Kendall, a motion to adjourn the meeting from today.
And a second?
I'll second. This is Darren.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? We'll see you next week, next month, I mean.
Good job, everybody.
David.
Oh, I was going to ask you something too, David.
What's up?
I was hoping you could show me how to, let me try to share my screen again to see what I'm doing wrong. So if this happens again, I'll know how to share my screen.
Sure. Did you have a question, Sylvia?
No, I'm just finishing up some notes here, but there's a few things that I think I'm missing, but I wasn't sure where to put them. So I'm assuming will Chloe go over these?
Yeah, she's gonna watch the recording and then go over, and she normally sends it out to everybody to look at, and most of the time if something's missing, someone catches it. So yeah, thank you for stepping in today.
Yeah, I'll just send her what I have, and then she can add to it as she listens.